Okay. Oasis in the Black Room. Do tell. What's the news?
Well, they just announced they've added 2 more shows at Wembley Stadium for September.
And Wembley holds 60, 70,000 people, right?
It's I think it's 70. I think all these gigs at 70,000 per, and so now they're up to 19 sellouts. Of course, I mean it's like they haven't sold a T-shirt yet, and they're well over $200 million. But they put 2 more shows today. They announced them because they also said that the band members had no idea that dynamic pricing was going to be involved. That's between promoters and management. They said they feel terrible that a lot of their deepest, longest fans were holed up in queues and couldn't get tickets. So these 2 shows are invitation only. They're going to email people they know who are real fans, I guess, or people that couldn't get in with the regular buy, and they're putting 2 special shows up for those folks. So they'll have no trouble paying for their tickets. They won't have to wait in a queue. It's just genius level marketing from the moment this thing rolled out. And all I know is this: I love those guys. We toured my former band, the Black Crowes, toured with them in 2001. We got on like a house on fire. They were awesome. Stayed in touch a little bit. Anytime I see any of those, they're great, right? They've been planning this thing for years. It's been so perfectly executed.
Probably pre-pandemic, right? The pandemic
yeah. Just knowing at some point.
Like, we're going to wait.
They didn't have the fine details figured out, but they knew one thing: until we announce it, we're going to continue to kill each other in the press. It's been amazing to watch. They're great.
Oh man. I think, and I think did I tell you I've been listening to your book?
No.
Yeah. I've been listening to your book.
Hey, all right.
I dig it. And I just got to the point. I mean, like, because your book is like my backup book because I'm cheap. And most of the books I get through the library, but your book I bought on Audible. So I listen to all my library books first.
Okay.
Because they're wait lists.
Sure, right.
And I only get them for like 20 days. And if I don't finish it. So anyway, so you're my book that once my library books run out and I'm on the wait list for something else, then I go to your book to listen.
Nice.
And I just got to the Oasis part. And I was like, of course that made all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
And of course, out of nowhere, once that microscope was on all the brothers were suddenly very brotherly, weren't they?
Oh, it was great. It was a blast. It was, I don't know that there was ever like 4 consecutive weeks that were that much fun ever in my 27 years in that band.
Yeah, I got to be honest. There's times where I'm like triggered by your book. I don't know how you read it.
Writing it and reading it was the easy part.
Was it?
Well, living it was a whole nother matter.
Okay, fair point.
Yeah.
But so I will probably be bringing your book up a lot more now because I'm at that point through it, and I'm really enjoying it. Great voice, great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and so back to Oasis, because I always have thoughts on Ticketmaster.
Yeah,
and I noticed that the British government is taking a page out of the U.S. government's book and going, "We're going to open an inquiry into Ticketmaster because something is amiss." And it's like, no, Ticketmaster's not been hiding dynamic pricing from you. Dynamic pricing has been in practice for ages. And when I worked at Ticketmaster in 2005, dynamic pricing was the dream. They were like, we would love to have some sort of an eBay system for every ticket in the house. We would love it. And this is Ticketmaster's dream, is to like gut the scalping market entirely and let people just go in and bid for every seat in the house. Oh, right. It's front row. Front row is up on Ticketmaster for your bids for the next, week and a half. Here's 10 days. Everyone go nuts and bid for these specific seats, and to use that as a pricing model for an entire arena. And the only problem, as we can see with dynamic pricing, is that it's too cumbersome to scale.
Yeah,
they can still do it for like a handful of shows here and there, but I think what they need is the feeding frenzy of everybody needing to get tickets all at once.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen that video of the brawl out front?
Yeah, I know it. Tell me why they can't have a system where tickets are a set price and no transfers allowed. Whoever buys them, it's in a name, and that name has to match. And if you can't go, guess what? If you get sick and can't go, you eat the ticket. You don't give it to your friend. Too bad. So the tiny percentage of people that would happen to, but to wipe out scalpers and to wipe out dynamic pricing, I mean, I'm sure there's some brilliant reason why this wouldn't make sense, but I don't know what it is.
Those people don't even need to get screwed because Ticketmaster could allow refunds.
That's true. They could just you could say, put my ticket back up for sale, and then someone else gets lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't even have to allow resales. They could just say, okay, as Ticketmaster, we understand that emergencies happen and you are allowed to refund this ticket to us.
Right.
Because Ticketmaster could resell that ticket themselves.
Right.
Or they can absolutely absorb that loss for the small amount of tickets that could be returned for actual emergencies, because nobody's giving up a ticket for an emergency.
Right.
It's an emergency.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the last thing Ticketmaster wants to do is not maximize every last stinking penny they can get out of this.
Absolutely.
But it's just the idea that this is in the best interest of the fans. It's just silly, and the idea that the artists aren't aware of it is also just really silly.
It's well, yeah, absolutely. The artists are 100% aware of it.
Yeah.
Like and so far Bruce Springsteen's been the only one to be like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? Everybody else is like, oh no, like The Cure, Oasis, they're all just like, whoa.
Well, The Cure, at least, I do give Robert Smith credit because he flat out said, we won't come unless you change this, fix this. And they fixed it.
And they created service charges.
Yeah.
And the interesting part to that is that we don't know what part of the service charge they rebated, because the service charge is the only thing that is still very opaque. They could have rebated a kickback that was built into the service charges that wasn't agreed on.
Yeah, I guess so.
But they had to have known if dynamic pricing was in effect, because there's probably a box that you have to tick to accept dynamic pricing in your on sale. It's not, it's not an Apple agreement. It's not a terms of service agreement. It's a big deal. It's a whole different process to put a dynamic pricing event on sale. They know. There's no secret there.
No doubt. I will say this, regardless of all this, props to Oasis for reminding the world, or I should say for reminding America that we are not the world, and that in the rest of the world, this was the biggest band for a solid decade. They in 2001, they did a tour with the Black Crowes where the Black Crowes played second in the States. The difference worldwide, though, is, and by the way, and that's not a knock on them. They just didn't connect here like they did in the rest of the world. But in the rest of the world, when they broke up in 2009, they were still headlining festivals and playing stadiums in Europe.
Yeah.
Just because they were doing really bad business in the States at that time. I mean, they were. I saw them in 2008 here in Minneapolis. We were across the street at First Avenue. Had a nice pack, sold out, 1,800 people in this big club, and they're at the arena across the street with about the same number of people. And they were like, what the hell is this? It's just one of those things. But now, they're going to come here. They haven't announced any U.S. dates yet, but everybody's talking about a handful of cities. It's going to be stadiums here too, because, the streaming years have been very good to this band. My son's 24, and in the last 5 years, he and all of his friends and everyone they know discovered Oasis. They love them. And he, my son's like, he goes, they're going to have a much younger crowd in the States than the rest of the world. He goes, their shows here are going to be insane because we've never been close. We not only did we not see them, we weren't even close to seeing them. Like, my son was 9 when they broke up, and now he's 24. He can't wait.
Yeah, and I think it's the same with AC/DC, right? They have a whole new audience of kids. AC/DC on the charts. For the first time, AC/DC is on streaming charts. And I'm like, that's unfathomable to me because they're AC/DC, But I always wished that Oasis had taken Coldplay's place. I feel like Coldplay kind of came in and usurped Oasis.
Yeah.
That band, and then kept going. And I was like, God, why couldn't it have been Oasis? Because I hate fucking Coldplay.
Well, I mean, Coldplay's not really a rock and roll band. That's a pop band at this point, you know. I mean, there is that too. They are always going to have a wider appeal, at least in the States. But you know, I don't know. I just think the whole thing to watch is it's just been such a smart, perfect. You can tell everything's been put in place. And you know, like Noel Gallagher, he goes to South America as Noel Gallagher and plays football stadiums.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
In South America.
Yeah. I
South
mean,
American football is.
So Oasis is going to go do. I mean, it's as many as they want. You know, in Australia, Japan, those places, Oasis is so. I mean, you know, again, in the U.S. they're whatever they are, but in the rest of the world, they are the biggest thing of the '90s. Like they dwarf any grunge band from the '90s worldwide. They're bigger than Guns N' Roses was worldwide, and only in America do people sort of not get that.
I wish we had something to say. I don't think we do. But I do want to, because I know this is my fucking wheelhouse. I do want to go back on dynamic pricing about something, because I don't think people understand why it should be less hated than it is, right? Because it's like you put an affordable ticket on sale at $100, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then dynamic pricing comes into play because of how many people are immediately buying those tickets at $100.
Yeah.
Reason for it is because all those people who are getting those tickets at $100 are scalpers who are going to be reselling those tickets at $1,000. So what dynamic pricing does is it raises the floor of the original ticket to $500 to kind of gut that profit for the scalper. The scalper's only going to make this much now instead of this much.
Yeah, and like you said, Springsteen sort of owned it. And I understand that. If you ask me, okay, who do you think should make more money, Bruce and the E Street Band or scalpers? I'd say Bruce and the E Street Band. I mean, I don't think scalpers should. I don't care about scalpers. I mean, and I've bought tickets to events from scalpers, and sometimes when you need them, they're your best friend. But as a general rule, I don't give a shit.
Yep, and there's no thwarting them. That's the Ticketmaster that no one wants to look into. Right. And there's no senators out there grandstanding about how we're going to look into scalpers because clearly they're the problem. But the truth is, and especially in America, probably in England as well, nobody wants to kind of dissect that free market industry sort of entrepreneurship of scalping. Yeah. But the truth is they buy a product and they've found a way to get that product first, no matter who you are. They're getting that product first because they're in the fan club. They're in the credit card. You know, they've got the credit card, they've got the fan club presale. They are in on every single angle that any human could get in on before the general public does. So plus they've got the bots. They've invested in the bot technology. So they are always now going to get those tickets, period. There's no way around it. And if there was a way around it, then they wouldn't need dynamic pricing because they could ensure a fair on sale to begin with. But no one can combat those bots, and they haven't figured out a way to do it. And that is the thing that nobody wants to say out loud.
There you preach, lady.
It's like all this distraction, like dynamic pricing's the enemy, you know, greedy artists are the enemy, promoters are the enemy. No, it's fucking scalpers. Like the whole point there is like the StubHub and the Vivid seats and businesses that aren't business that are businesses, but they're stealing your tickets.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they're not making they don't make anything. They just step into the middle of a process and inflate, you know, part of it. Yeah. And
the only reason Ticketmaster doesn't want to do your very easy solution of one person, one ticket is because they also want the resale market, because they also benefit from the upcharging of tickets as justified by the scalpers.
Yep.
You know, when you go look at a show like Foo Fighters at Concord Pavilion sold out like crazy. And the only tickets that were still available were they didn't do dynamic pricing. But what they did was they had their special seats. I forget what they're called now. It's like diamond seating or premier seating or some shit like that, that Ticketmaster has, where they will take a certain number of tickets and just mark them way up. Be like, hey, all the seats in this section are going to be, you know, $90, but ours are $750.
Yeah.
And those are the tickets that are left, you know. And it's funny because those tickets will be left for a very long time at $750, because somebody who's going to spend $750 is going to go to StubHub, the guy who beat him for the front row tickets.
Yeah.
Pay him for those. Like the supply and demand, you know, it's like cocaine. Yeah. Why do people spend so much money on cocaine? Well, they really want fucking cocaine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like they say, no, drug dealers don't have to convince, they don't twist your arm.
They just go to the source and get it before you do.
They just provide, they're just there. Yeah.
They buy up all the cocaine so that you don't have any way to get it cheaper. And then they sell it to you at a more expensive price. Drug dealers and scalpers, there's no difference except for a business license.
I can think of a couple differences. A couple. Drug dealers have better teeth.
You are terrible.
No, I'm just saying.
God, there was something else I was going to ask you about today. Let me see if I've got it up on my desktop. Oh, did you see Pink Floyd is the next band that wants to sell their catalog?
I saw something where Gilmour said they were looking into it, and then it all fell apart because Roger Waters was talking about the Ukraine-Russian war, and I didn't get any details. I don't know if I saw that correctly, but boy, if they do, if Queen's worth $1 billion too, I got to think Pink Floyd's even more than that.
Yeah, and now at first he was interested in a financial standpoint, but now he says he's only interested to get out of the shit show that it's become.
Yeah, just to be out of the way. I can understand that. You know, it's like, because he obviously doesn't need, in capital letters, money. Yeah. No one doesn't want, you know, another 300-400 mil. I mean, I'm sure. And just to know that you could just remove yourself from contentious emails and phone calls and lawsuits, sure.
I think I remember reading that he donated like a mansion at one point rather than sell it and pay the taxes on it, because it was like a $7 million or £7 million mansion, and if he donated it, he got a tax write-off. And I think I think it was a touring year for him. And if he sold it, then he was going to make something like 10% on the sale, because it was going to be considered like whatever capital gains is in the UK.
Yeah. Good problems to have.
Right.
There are worse financial concerns for a musician to have than how do I avoid a huge tax bill.
Do you think when money becomes no longer an issue, you get to focus on real issues, or you end up focusing on stupid shit?
It's just it's just different. I mean, it depends on who you are. You know, who you are when you're broke is who you are when you have money, and most of the way across. You know, you act differently, you might live differently, but your values, honestly, I don't think they change much. I mean, if anything, people will take the mask off, good or bad. People will at some point realize I've been acting a certain way because I thought I should. And then they're like, I don't care anymore. But if there's true values being exhibited, you know, early in life, who you really are doesn't change. I mean, how you act publicly might, but I think you know, I don't think money. I've just been around a lot of people on the way up and a lot of people on the way down and this and that. And, you know, the steadiest people are always pretty steady, no matter where they are.
I don't know what I do, but I would like to find out.
Yeah. I mean, it's true that, you know, money does not buy you happiness after a certain point. You know, every study done says there's a certain amount of money you can make where with every increase, it's like, this is great. And you're just, man, I feel really, really good. And then there is a point that's way lower than most people would imagine where it just stops. You can feel secure. You can have a little bit more relief, but true like contentment inside, that doesn't last very long. I mean, was it David Lee Roth who said, of course, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it buys you a boat that you can pull into the happiness harbor. You know, you get pretty close. And I can say that, you know, when you aren't worried about rent, there's more relief. I don't know if there's true happiness, but I mean, all that to say, I'm not suggesting it doesn't matter to me. You know, if someone's like, hey, do you want this much or a little bit more? The answer is always, well, I'll take a little bit more. Yeah. There's always more you can do with it, good, bad, or otherwise. But I mean, I think I put, we started off by talking about Pink Floyd. I don't think either one of them have had a thought about how money is impacting their happiness in many, many, many years.
No. But also, I think a lot of bands started out really poor and made really great music, and then got a lot of money and stopped making really great music.
No question.
And I think Pink Floyd is not one of them.
No.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Their music has always been a high level, high quality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know how much money they made because of a song about the evils of the love of money? I mean, they wrote a song called Money.
Fair.
Which is not it's not a lyric about money's awesome. Let's all go make as much as we can. And the result was they all made more money than they ever imagined possible, probably.
They also wrote a song about the evils of the record industry. And here they
certainly did.
Successful recording artists.
Yeah.
There's a pattern here.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're who they are, their values. They actually had them, and they were aware of what they were, and they owned them, and they, that's why they're still around.
Guns N' Roses, on the other hand,
things change. No, you see a lot of people just, the smartest thing Guns N' Roses has done, in my opinion, in this last 8 years is they just haven't given a single interview. Have you seen an interview with anyone in the band since the reunion?
Huh. Good call.
I mean, I interviewed Slash last month about his new project. His new album, his festival, the tour, and the note I got from his publicist was no Guns N' Roses questions, like none. Like they don't talk about it; they just go do it.
Interesting. I think somebody must have sneaked one in because I remember reading a headline about Slash saying that there was new music coming or something.
Well, I think he's offered that. I don't know if people are asking, that's one thing. But I mean, no one's asking about the old days. They don't talk about what led them apart, and they don't talk about what brought them back together. It'll be interesting to see if Oasis does the same.
I think the biggest complaint I have with Guns N' Roses is that ever since Izzy left the band, their songwriting has just gone to shit. And at no point do they seem to be considering reconciliation with him in order to improve that. They just keep shitting out these songs from the Chinese Democracy sessions, which, just like Boogie Nights recreated, Yeah.
I mean,
I think of the Chinese Democracy sessions, I'm 100% sure that it's Boogie Nights.
I don't think too many people are going to expect a whole lot more from Axl without Slash or Duff around in those years. It's like, I just think that, there's a lot of bands that become, I think most bands to some extent go through a lot of the same problems. And rather than talk about the ones like Guns N' Roses that you wish more, it's more just how incredible it is to me. A band like there's REM, there's U2, there's Metallica, there's a handful of bands that own the mistakes they've made. Bono's the first guy to go, oh my God, we have taken some serious swings and missed entirely, and he fully understands that he gets on people's nerves too. Like he makes fun of himself, but he can't help it. It's who he is. And, I think that there's a handful of bands, that's just 3 that I named, but for the most part, the same people throughout, and they've just always cared enough to really hold themselves up to their former standards. They don't assume that because they're hugely successful, they can kick back. And that's really impressive. I mean, whether you like the music or not isn't the point. They've decided what their ethics are, and they've lived consistently for, that's 3 bands that are all along, I mean, REM isn't really a band anymore, but they had 30 years like that. The other guys have 40 years like that. It's very impressive.
Did you get a chance to hear the snippet of the Van Halen tune?
No, I just saw that it was, no, I meant to, I forgot to go listen to it.
It's interesting to me because Joe Satriani is on the tour with Sammy Hagar, the Best of All Worlds tour that they're doing Van Halen songs for. And the snippet to me was very kind of Satriani reminiscent. Just because I think the two of them influenced each other to some degree. And I think that Satriani, I don't know how to say this without making it an insult, because it's not. I think it reminded me of a kind of Satriani tone and style, but obviously an Eddie Van Halen song. But
I don't know that there's nothing insulting about that. I mean, it's just what it is.
Well, you know how guitar players get.
Well, that's true.
I've
heard.
No one who's not going to assume I wasn't be insulting one or both of them.
I've heard that people can be prickly. Yes.
Prickly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
The memoir comes out October 22nd. So that is going to be both interesting and just sad.
I imagine. I thought the same thing.
While reading a book, but I mean, I have a feeling.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. I mean, those guys, I'm hardly a Van Halen historian, but those guys never had it easy, and then they didn't make it easy on themselves when they could have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a couple of tortured souls for sure, who were raised by a tortured soul, and you know, their childhood going from one part of the world to another, and you know, never really fitting in anywhere, and then they're just given the keys to the kingdom. It's like, of course, they didn't manage it in a way that the average person would say would make sense.
I almost don't even know what to expect. Like,
yeah,
because Alex has always not been the guy talking for the most part. So the idea that he would come up with an entire book in his own voice is just unfathomable to me.
Well, I'm interested to see. We'll find out soon enough, I guess.
As a drummer, as a musician, as as somebody who worked with brothers.
Yeah, and I say all the time, if his brother weren't Eddie Van Halen, he'd be thought of as one of the great drummers. But when people think of Van Halen, Eddie takes all of the shine with good reason. I don't think Alex is to drumming what Eddie is to guitar, but who is? I mean, there's a short list, and not too many people are getting added to that list. But Alex is right below. I mean, on every list, you see Bonham and Neil Peart, and now Danny Carey's name is always added to that. But then you got the originals, you got Ringo and Charlie Watts, all the greats, the iconic drummers of all time, and you never see Alex's name there. And I understand that, but I tell you what, he's right underneath that line. He's a tremendous drummer.
Yeah.
And it was obviously in the right band for himself. You can't imagine there being anybody else on those records. You can't imagine anyone else being on those gigs. So, you know, he's just great. But it's like, well, when your brother's Eddie, you're not going to get a whole lot of attention no matter what you do.
Speaking of Jason Bonham, have you heard what caused him to leave the tour?
I heard that his mom is I've heard that. I just read. I haven't heard from anybody. I read that his mom is unwell, which is, you know, of course, hope that that's not horrible news. But he apparently, on a moment's notice, just flew to England, so it doesn't sound like she's doing too great.
Oh, gotcha. Well, it sounds like it's time for Chauncey to get a walk in. Do you want to tell me?
Oh, can you hear him? He's
yeah, totally. Up. I love him.
Yeah.
You want to tell me what you got coming up on the show tonight real quick, or?
Sure.
Do you remember?
What's on the show tonight? I'm curious myself.
You don't have to. I mean, because I was hoping. Oh, I love it. Oh, you're a good boy. Headphones in. You can't even hear me.
Yeah, not a chance.
Sorry.
That's all right.
It's a thing I have to do when I see a cute dog.
Oh, I'm right there with you. It didn't even occur to me he couldn't hear you. I'm completely at a loss for what's on the show tonight. Oh, I know what's on the show tonight. Of course, among other things, I'm talking about the return, thankfully, finally, of professional football tomorrow night.
Oh.
I mean, come on, how excited are we? And by the way, I'll just go ahead and get this out of the way. I fully expect for Brock Purdy to be around for a long time. I think he's going to get a deal for real. He's not going to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, but he's going to be incredibly well compensated after this season. And or is it this one or two more before his deal's up? But whenever it's up, give him another season or two as Shanahan. He's a made man, and he should be. I like Purdy. I'm one of the few people outside of the Niner world that's like, man, that guy's great.
Honestly, I don't understand why anybody wouldn't think he was great. I mean, they basically didn't even give him the job entirely. And then when he finally did, he had some stumbles, but come on.
Well, I understand that if he were anywhere else, he might not be this. I mean, but it doesn't matter. He is where he is. it's like when someone, people used to go, well, if Shaq wasn't so big, it's like, but he is.
And you don't think it's going to be this like mega Ayuk deal where everybody's just like, oh God, is he going to sign? Is he not going to sign?
No, he's not going to do that, because the worst thing a quarterback can do is not show leadership. And, I mean, when Tom Brady took less for years, it sort of set this precedent for a lot of guys. But Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, they got huge, crazy money, but no one in either organization or fan base is sweating it, because the idea that they would ever go anywhere else is like would cause global panic. Whereas the Cowboys, they're going to give Dak Prescott a deal, and then of course they'll still suck forever, and that's great for all of us. It's
almost as if mega deals are bad luck, because it means you've got that kind of money to pour onto a quarterback, and you're not spreading it around for the support team that you're going to need for that quarterback to do his job.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy doesn't have the personality, and whatever he has, the equity he will continue to build. If he had a big holdout or a dramatic set of demands, it would really hurt him in the long run. I just don't think he's dumb enough to do that. He's a bright kid. He's got good people around him, and I think he's going to be there for a long time.
I think when players do that, it not only sours the fans to them, but I think it's a drop of poison in a locker room.
No doubt. You can get what you're owed, and you can think you're owed more than you are, blah, blah, blah. But, the way you handle it and what you do, there's a whole lot going on with it. But I just think with this organization, Brock Purdy to me strikes me as the kind of guy who knows I'm in the right place with the right coach and the right system, and it's just perfect. And, if Brock Purdy went to the Carolina Panthers with a mandate of turn the team around, I don't think much good would happen. No, and he's smart enough to know that too.
You need a veteran quarterback to do that. You can't. He's still kind of a new guy. That's the thing. People treat him like he's been like he's got 10 seasons under his belt, and he's got like 2.
No, I think it's good. I think the Niners are I could see them having a little bit of by the end of the season, they'll be great. They always are. When you got that coaching staff, and you got all the weapons they have, they'll be fine.
It's going to be down to injuries, right?
They do have some injuries, but everybody does. And I'd rather have injuries right now than in November. Yeah. Football's back, so everyone's happy and anxious all at the same time. Isn't it great?
That's exactly what it is. It's a happy, anxious.
Yeah, it's really great. It's become, the older I get, the more when the season's over, I'm like, oh, that was great. I need a break. And then by the time it's coming back, I'm just like, oh, let's go. Yeah, I can't wait.
Man.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Oh, and by the way, we'll also play some music on the show tonight too. Why not?
Just in case.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Do you want to meet up next week again sometime? Is this one thing working out?
Yeah, I'm in Nashville next week, but I'm, same thing. I'm around.
Okay. Do you want to try and have maybe like a couple of what's coming up tonight's on deck for next week, so that we can try and get them on the air a little more?
Yeah, I can give you a couple in advance. Hang on.
Oh, do you got a couple?
Like our Monday nights are like a theme night,
Okay.
Generally, I can tell you what the next few Mondays are going to be. I know that much.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Sure. Okay. Well, give me one Monday, because I'm not that far ahead yet.
All right.
I was planning for next week.
Yeah. Let me give you that. Hang on. Let me find these logs.
But yeah, the more of these I can get on the on-air product, the better as well. But I think they're starting to permeate too on the socials.
Okay, so September 9th, this next Monday, I can tell you what that is.
Okay.
Should I just say it like we're talking about it?
Yeah, I'll just be like, we'll just say, and 3, 2, 1. So what do you got coming up on the show tonight?
The music of 1976, bicentennial year.
Ooh,
America was 200. I was 11. It was all happening.
I was 3.
Yeah. Well, then, you'll probably be curious to know what was happening on the charts. What was the rock music of note in that year? And we will give it all to you tonight.
What do you remember from 1976? Anything?
Everything. I turned 11. I was fully sentient.
Did you have a plastic Halloween costume?
No, I was the Hunchback of Notre Dame when I was 11.
What?
I went as the Hunchback. My sister made all this ghoulish makeup on my face. I stuffed a pillow into a sweatshirt, put on a weird wig. I had a rope belt Like it was perfect. And not one person said, "Who are you supposed to be?" Everybody went, "Hey, Hunchback."
Was there some Hunchback popularity in 76 I'm not aware of?
I don't think so. I just, you know, what else could I be? I had a big hump on my back. I wasn't a camel.
As a kid, you were like, Mom, I want to be the Hunchback. You didn't want to be Batman? Or was this like...
That was the Batman was out. It was like Batman wasn't cool in 1976. All we had was the TV show and the comic books. You know, it was a decade plus between, you know, before Nicholson and Michael Keaton and all that sort of swung it all back into the fashion.
I can't shake this desperate need to understand why 11-year-old Steve Gorman wanted to be the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I don't even know if it was my idea. My sister may have suggested it because she had weird makeup in the house. I don't know.
Because that's the Irish, so no.
No, I don't know. Who cares? All I know is it worked. And by the way, I got up the next day and I didn't want to take my makeup off because it looked so cool. My mom was like, "You're not going to school like that." So yeah. Yeah, I remember these things.
Wow. I don't know what I was for Halloween in 1976, but now I'm gonna have to call my mom and ask her.
She won't remember.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
In fact, any mom who would remember, I'd be like, "Come on, dude. Seriously, you can let it go. It's perfectly okay."
She probably does know because I was the favorite. Shh, don't tell anyone.
Well, I mean, look, you're talking to the youngest of 8. We don't have to question who the favorite was.
This is true. Except I was the oldest of 6.
Oof.
Well, you know, we were a blended family, though. You're the oldest of 8 in a row.
I'm the youngest of 8 in a row.
Excuse me, you're the youngest of 8 in a row, and I'm the oldest of 6 that were like
Brady bunched in.
Yes, very Brady bunched and reproduced and produced later, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sequel kids, you know, like the Oliver years.
I just spoke to somebody who is working with Robbie Rist, who played Oliver right now. Yeah.
He lives?
Yeah. Apparently he's a great singer and a really good musician. And there was just a project. He goes, "Yeah, no, this guy came in to sing. He's the guy that played Oliver." And I went, "Robbie Rist?" And he's like, "Of course I know who that is." Yeah. Come on, man. That's one of the great, you know, save me characters on a TV show that, you know, it's like a last ditch effort. We got to shake up these kids. We need a new kid.
He's the veteran quarterback they brought in to turn the team around.
That was it. And he did a hell of a job.